This show was made possible with the continued support of the Novi affiliates with competitive rev share, high-tech tools, and real-time statistics.
Hello, my friends. I've returned after 2 weeks away. When I left, the plan was to spend just 1 week off visiting my dad in Texas for Father's Day, but the trip became about so much more than that. If you would like to hear about it and why I needed the extra time off, I will be happy to share that story at the end of this video where the bloopers normally go. Otherwise, you know, let's just get on with the show and get to the news headlines that we missed while I was gone, even though we can't possibly cover them all in just one show. So, you may have noticed over the years that occasionally I can be critical of the UK Gambling Commission. They seemingly love to make rules and regulations and issue fines, but don't always seem to understand or appreciate the realities of working in this industry. Now, they may have taken a step toward rectifying some of that, and they're providing some clarity with the launch of a new hub website for operator responsibilities with third parties. And while this doesn't specifically mention affiliates, I think that we qualify as third parties in this little scenario. The website hub will list specific license conditions and codes of practice for all to see openly and transparently. Of course, every operator's legal team will most likely interpret these rules and regulations differently and pick them apart, but hey, that's life in the big city, right? Also, you may have noticed that over the years, I've been critical of the UK's Guardian newspaper for their biased and hypocritical methods. But I can't call them hypocrites anymore, at least not in one regard, as the news group has finally decided to stop accepting gambling ads after years of allowing them. And they say that'll cost them millions of pounds a year. So, now they can be biased with a clear conscience. But let this sink in. Every time you read one of their headlines that's negative about our industry, or one of their editorials that goes after us, remember, they profited a lot more off of the gambling industry than you or I ever did. While I was away, I still found time to publish a brand new APCW interview video. I spoke to our friend Naomi Barton from Clarion Events about the upcoming IGB Live taking place in less than 2 weeks in Amsterdam. This show will focus on bringing operators and affiliates together, and organizers expect about 5,000 iGaming professionals to attend. You can watch this interview on the APCW website and YouTube channel and in the forums at GPWA. Now, I would like to close out the show with what I'm calling the 3 shits. That is, stories that gave me 3 different reactions, all involving some use of the word shit. First up, the big cheese at the Gambling Commission says there has been some confusion about affordability checks. Well, no shit is my response. Some in this industry feel that this confusion led to multiple interpretations of these checks and caused lots of confusion and difficulty, while others feel that operators were using this confusion to their advantage. Whatever the case, thank goodness that the UKGC was able to clear it up after a mere 3 years of silence. Next, the upcoming Bacta conference in November will have the UKGC in attendance, and it was just announced that the Bank of England will also be there. Well, oh shit is my response. Can you imagine? Just think about the possible headaches ahead of us if the Commission and the Bank of England were to start working together or partner up. I mean, think about it. They're at a convention, they're talking, they're at the bar after the show, it gets late, one thing leads to another, and the Commission follows the bank back up to their bedroom. Then we got to deal with that for years to come. Lastly, despite the upcoming ban on gambling sponsorships by Premier League on jerseys, Chelsea is wrapping up talks with sports betting operator Stake for a $50 million shirt sponsorship deal. Well, holy shit is my response to this. Now, this ban doesn't go into effect until 2025 or so, so I guess it could make perfect sense for programs to want to take advantage for as long as they can, grab that low-hanging fruit, make hay while the sun is shining, and any other analogy you want to throw in there. Still, I can't help feeling this isn't really good for our industry, because if multiple football teams and multiple gambling companies continue to make these deals right up to the point where they're cut off, they're not going to blame the football clubs. No, everyone's going to look at the gambling companies and go, those dirty bastards. But I'm not in charge. Anyway, if you'd like to know what happened while I was down in Texas, stay sitting right where you are, and if not, thank you very much for watching. God willing, I'll be back next week. Okay, now that I know just my friends are watching, take these off. My original plan had been to head to Texas to spend Father's Day with my dad. I bought those tickets months and months ago. It was going to be my vacation. And you also may recall that a couple of months ago, in April, I had gone to Texas because Dad had some medical issues, but he was in good spirits, expected to make a full recovery. So I went and I visited, and we had a great time. And I told him I'd see him when I came back on Father's Day. About 2 days before I left, we got a call that Dad was in the hospital, that his blood sugar had been extremely high, and that he had had a seizure as a result, and that he was sedated but expected to recover, and maybe he'd even be out of the hospital by the time I got down there in a couple of days. Well, the morning I went to leave, I got a message from my sister that said it was not a seizure due to blood sugar, and that my father had in fact suffered a stroke, and that it was not a good situation. By the time I got down there to Texas, I walked in, and my father was paralyzed on his left side. He had his arm up. He had pneumonia and an infection and was coughing. He couldn't get it up though because he didn't have the strength. They would have to come in and suction things out of him. It's miserable. His dialysis was having to be increased, and so they had him on all sorts of blood thinners and antibiotics, oxygen. His advanced directive made it clear that if he could not survive on his own, and have a high quality of life. It was his wish that we make him comfortable and let things progress naturally. So we waited for his brother and sister, my aunt and uncle, to get there. They went in and talked to him, as did I. He was conscious. He looked right at us, even though he couldn't speak. He reached out for us with his good hand. And we told him we were going to honor his wishes and that he wasn't going to have to live like that. We weren't going to leave him that way. We were going to honor what he wanted. So after everyone had said their goodbyes, they removed the blood thinner and the antibiotic and the feeding tube. That's it. And within an hour, as my sister sat on one side and I sat on the other, and we both held his hands, his heart slowly stopped and he was gone. The fact that my dad went so quickly when all they did was remove the blood thinner and the antibiotic, he was still on the oxygen. There's no way removing a feeding tube would have caused him to starve to death that quickly. So we know in our hearts, we have the peace of knowing it's what he wanted. He was ready. And after we said goodbye, he just let go and went home. For me, it's not the end. The vessel my father occupied on this planet is gone, but his spirit's there. Energy that exists within each and every one of us cannot be destroyed. Science will tell you this. It just changes from one form to another. And at about 7:25 on Father's Day, my dad converted his soul back to the God that gave him life.